Consider and an unused stat, kindness. 3 enemies can also be found in the game's data that were absent from the final game. And lastly, a series of cutscenes can be found in the game's data that were never used in the final game's story. One scene features a flying interpreter moving around in the sky, another shows a flashback of the twins playing together, which was possibly going to be used near the end of the game. Another flashback features the twins fighting each other, with Klaus pushing Lucas down before their father intervenes. And the final unused cutscene features a flashback of Lucas and Klaus in a field with their mother. Throughout the development of the series, several Earthbound projects were planned and even partially developed but were ultimately scrapped. The first scrapped project was a sequel to Mother 2 that began its development for the Super Famicom. Development later shifted to the Nintendo 64 disk drive. The developers had planned to use features of the disk drive such as the internal clock and the ability to draw on the faces of the characters. After the failure of the disk drive, development shifted to a regular Nintendo 64 cartridge. The game suffered multiple delays and was eventually cancelled. Shigesato Itoi explained that the ambition of the project was too large and the development team were too inexperienced with 3D game development. Eventually, the remnants of the game were gathered up and converted into Mother 3 for the Game Boy Advance. At some point in the Nintendo 64 version of Mother 3's development, an expansion pack known as Mother 3.5 was also planned. Not much is known about this expansion pack other than just simply that it existed and that it was going to be an expansion pack. Another Earthbound project was something Itoi came up with while developing the Nintendo 64 iteration of Mother 3. In the November 1996 issue of 64 Dream, Itoi mentioned, "I wanted to make a Mr. Saturn action puzzle game. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like the game will ever come to be." In an interview with Nintendo President Satoru Iwata, Shigesato Itoi announced that he was finished with the Mother series and was happy with the 3 games as they are. That's all for today, but don't forget to subscribe to Digino Gaming and follow Digino Gaming on Facebook and Twitter. Make sure you also check out diginogaming.com, and if you like this video, check out our others. Also check out my channel, chugaconroy. I do various videos, mostly Let's Play videos, of anything from Pokemon to Kid Icarus to Sonic to Okami, all kinds of things like that. The Japanese title for the Earthbound series Mother was inspired by a song of the same name by John Lennon. The lyrics of Mother deal with Lennon's experiences of growing up without a father. Earthbound creator Shigesato Itoi chose this name for his project because his own father was absent through much of his life. This theme is addressed in the first 2 Mother games, in which the main protagonist's father is never seen and only makes an appearance as a voice on a telephone. Itoi also felt the title of Mother was especially fitting, as this game series is more feminine than other RPGs. The Earthbound series is famous for combining colorful graphics and silly dialogue with dark and sometimes depressing themes. These themes have roots in the work of some of Itoi's favorite authors, including Stephen King and Kurt Vonnegut. Both are known for science fiction and satire, respectively. Earthbound's strange alien creatures, referred to as Mr. Saturn, were inspired by Kurt Vonnegut's Pralfamidorians, a species of silly-looking, benign aliens that appears in Kurt Vonnegut's novels. In the game, the speech of Mr. Saturn is represented by unusual font in both the Japanese and English versions. The Japanese font was designed by Itoi himself and was based on his daughter's handwriting at the time. According to Mr. Itoi, the Mr. Saturn race are the symbolism for innocence in the game. Before creating Earthbound, Itoi had worked for Nintendo as a copywriter, designing catchy taglines for their games. He had also done similar work for the prominent Japanese animation company Studio Ghibli. He also voiced the father in My Neighbor Totoro and became a minor celebrity by the time he began to work on video games. While Itoi initially proposed Mother to Shigeru Miyamoto, Miyamoto's reactions reportedly made Itoi cry. In 2008, Itoi posted on his blog, "In my mind, I hope Mr. Miyamoto, who I was meeting with for the very first time, would read it and say, 'Wow, this is great,' but instead after reading it, he said, 'I see. We need to put this in game form first.'" It is often speculated that Miyamoto's hesitation was due to Nintendo's history of greenlighting low-quality Famicom games simply because they involve celebrity figures. However, Nintendo president Hiroshi Yamauchi was a big fan of Itoi's work within the company, and Mother was approved for production. Miyamoto's opinion changed after the release of the game, and he later admitted in an interview that Mother was the first RPG he ever completed on his own, and that he even restarted from the beginning after losing his save file. It's become known that a fully translated and localized version of the first Mother game was produced by Nintendo of America, but it was cancelled before its release. In July 1998, a group of fans found a prototype cartridge of the English version of Mother and circulated the game's ROM online. Many fans were surprised to learn how much had been changed between the Japanese and American versions of the game. This included additional configuration menus, detailed enemy descriptions, new and redesigned areas in the map, and added run ability. Some of these changes were added by the request of Nintendo of America's Earthbound producer and scriptwriter, Phil Sandhoff. Sandhoff stated that there were plans to release the game with an enhanced 80-page instruction manual, and even a separate release of the game's soundtrack. The game was ultimately cancelled because in addition to the cost of all the extra materials, the cartridge itself was too expensive due to the size and scope of the game. It required extra memory and a battery for saving, which made it too costly to produce and market at the time. This was partly due to Nintendo of America preparing for the launch of the Super Nintendo. Prior to the cancellation, several magazines had printed small previews of the NES release of Mother, already renamed Earthbound. It's not known why Nintendo of America renamed the game, and Nintendo has never officially commented on the matter. It's possible the game wasn't originally planned to be renamed at all. Listings in the United
Show capture
States
device. Stop recording.
showed Nintendo of America first trademarking the name Mother November of 19